Okay, so let's solve some problems uh, from chapter 4. We're going to solve three problems, number 2, 3, and 5. So let's start with number 2. So what we have is that the total nominal income in the economy is 50,000 billion. Let's say 50 trillion pounds, and the money demand is given. So let's write that down first. So what we have is money demand is equal to y 0.2 minus 0.8i. So this is what we had. We know that the nominal income is, let's call it 50 trillion. And what else is there? We have to calculate the demand for money when interest rate is 1% and 5%. Okay, so let's start with 1%. So if I is 1%, what do we have? So money demand is equal to, let's put down the nominal income, 50 trillion times 0.2 minus 0.8 times income, which is interest, which is 1%, so 0.01. And so this is just calculation at this stage. So what do we get? 0.8 times 0.001 is 0.008. So 0.2 minus, so what do we get here? 0.2 minus 0.08, which I think we get 50t times 0.12, I suppose. And so you guys just do the calculation and see whatever you get. And for I equals to 5%, I'll leave the calculation off to you guys. It's quite straightforward. What's part B? What will be the impact on the demand for money if nominal income declines by 20%? Okay, so that comes straight from the theory. So as we know, money demand is not this, y times 0.2 minus 0.8i, which, if you have noticed, is exactly the same as what we have seen in our lectures. And what we know is that money demand is related positively with income and negatively with interest rate. So therefore, if income is falling, we're going to see that money demand is falling as well by 20%, by the same amount. So that's the answer in part B. If nominal income falls by 20%, our money demand will fall by 20% as well. Part C, what is the relationship between the demand for money and income? Demand for money and income, money demand. Okay, so that's basically what we talked about. Wait, am I reading it correctly? Demand for money and income, yeah. So demand for money and income, and they have a direct positive relationship. We've already talked about this. It's really not much to talk about here. Money demand and the interest rate. What's the relationship between money demand and interest rate? A negative relationship. We've learned that from theory, and even here, if you look at the equation, what you see is that when interest rate goes up, there's a negative sign here, which means money demand will go down. So it's an inverse relationship. So this is positive, this is negative. Straightforward. Part D. Explain what the central bank should do to interest rate if it needs to increase the demand for money. increase the demand for money. Okay, so money demand, we have seen, is a function of what? Income and interest rate. Now, what the central bank want to do is increase the demand for money. So if you want this to go up, what you want is this to go down. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, I think this was part D. Yeah, so this was part D. That's done. Let's move on to question number 3. Maybe that will be a bit more challenging. Okay, so consider a bond that promises to pay 100 in 1 year. Okay, so straight away, two information. The face value of the bond is 100 and it matures in 1 year. Okay, these two information are given to us straight away. What else? What is the interest rate on the bond if its price is 75, 85, 95? Okay, let's start with 75. So the price of the bond today is 75. Okay, so there is an interest rate we do not know. So suppose the interest rate is X. Okay, now if you buy this bond today for 75, 1 year later, you are going to earn 100 taka. So what is the interest rate? You're effectively multiplying this with 1 plus interest rate, isn't it? So for example, if interest rate is 5%, what you are going to do, and this is just basic maths, is you're going to multiply this with 1.05, and that is going to give you 100. That is how interest rates work. Of course, it's not 5%. We do not know what is. So if we assume it to be X, what we have here is 1 plus X. Okay, so let's do the calculations, and what we get, 1 plus X is $100 divided by 75. This reduces down to 4 by 3, and what we get is X equals to 4 by 3 minus 1, which gives us 0.33. So which effectively means is that the interest rate is 30%. That's it. So if the value of the bond today is 75 and it's going to pay me 100 1 year later, the interest rate is 33%. I think, hold on, I think there is another way of calculating this. So I'm going to show that as well in case it helps someone. So we're buying this for 75 and the value is 100. So if you buy this for 75 and in 1 year's time you get 100 back, how much do you earn from this? You earn 25, right? So if that's for an investment of 75, you're going to earn 25. That gives you 0.33, which is effectively 33%. So, same thing, whichever method is easier, you just follow that. The second one was, what if price is 85? So, okay, so before doing the calculation, try to think, if price is going up, will interest go up or go down? If something is becoming more expensive, is the interest on it going up or going down? Interest rate should be going down. This is why. So price now is $85. Okay, and the value has not changed. It's 100. So what we know is that I buy this for 85 today. I multiply it with the interest rate, and that gives me 100. Okay. So let's see how much that gives me. What I have is 100 divided by 85 minus 1. And I wonder how much that is. I don't have a calculator with me. So 20 by 17 minus 1, 17, 3 by 17, which will be, well, however much it is. You guys do the calculations, and this is however much that is. And so the next is if the price is 95. So B is 95. If B is 100, I have to find I. So I'm going to leave this for you guys to do as practice. And I'll just move on to the next problem we're doing. And let's do something more difficult. Let's do number 8. Okay. Let's read the question. So we have a scenario where the public holds no currency. So all demand for money is for checkable accounts. The reserve ratio is 0.1, which means however much money is deposited in the bank has to hold 10% of it as reserve, and money demand is given. Okay, so let me write this down. So this is number 8. Money demand is given by Y 0.8 minus 4I. Okay, so the first thing is, what is the demand for central bank? Oh, wait, we have more information. Monetary base is 100 billion and nominal income is 5 trillion. Okay, let's write those down as well. So monetary base is $100 billion and nominal income is 5 trillion. I'll just write T. All right. So question number 1, what is the demand for central bank money? Now, okay, so demand for central bank money, how much is it? Now notice that central bank money is divided into two parts. One is the currency held by the people and the reserve held by the banks. We've talked about this. Currency held by the people plus reserve held by banks. Now the question has already told us that the public hold no currency. If the public hold no currency, all their money is in banks. And if all the money is in banks, then the demand for central bank currency is simply the demand for checkable accounts, effectively demand for money times the reserve ratio. So however much money is being put into the bank, 10% of that has to be held as reserve, and that precisely is how much the demand for central bank money is. So that's part A. Look at part B. Equilibrium interest rate. By setting the demand for central bank money equal to supply of central bank money. Okay, demand for central bank money is equal to the supply for central bank money. Okay. Okay, so this was the equation for demand for central bank money, but we haven't been able to calculate how much it will be because we do not know I. We know Y, but we do not know I. So we don't know how much demand for central bank money is, but we do know the supply for central bank money. This is the supply for central bank money, 100 billion. And the question saying that we just set them equal by setting the demand for CB equal to supply of CB. Okay, so if we do that, then demand for, I'll use green. So demand for central bank money is 100 billion. This is equal to 0.1 times nominal income we know is 5 trillion, 0.8 minus 4i. And now we can do this calculation. So this too is 500 billion. So 100b divided by 500b equals to 0.8 minus 4i. So that means I is equals to 0.8 minus 0.2 divided by 4, which gives us 0.15. So effectively, we see that interest rate is 15%. Okay, move on to number C. What is the overall supply of money? Okay, let's do that first. What is the overall supply of money? So we know that the reserve in the bank. Now, let's take a look here. So nominal income is 5 trillion. This is how much money the people of the economy has. And they're not holding anything as currency. So this entire amount is in banks. $5 trillion has been deposited in the bank. Banks has to hold 10% of this as what? As reserve. So the question was, what is the overall supply of money? Oh, okay. So forget what I've been saying. That was taking you guys in the wrong direction. Overall supply of money. Okay. So what we know is that monetary base is 100 billion. Let me just write that down. Monetary base is 100 billion. Now here's the thing. This is the supply of central bank money. The central bank is going to give banks $100 billion. Okay, what can we do? What will the banks do with this? They will lend it out. But can they lend out the entire amount? Of course not. There is a reserve ratio of 0.1. So there is 100 billion money supply. The bank has to give 10% of this in their vault, and then they're going to lend out the other 90%. So that's 90 billion. When they lend out this 90 billion to people, are these people going to hold this as cash? No, there is no demand for currency. So people are going to take this loan from the bank and put it in their deposit account. Banks are going to take this 90 billion. What are they going to do? They're going to have to keep 10% of this 90,000 as reserve and lend out once again 90% of 90,000, that is 81 billion, to other people. And these people, once again, they have 81 billion. What are they going to do with this 81 billion? They don't want to hold it as cash. So they will put it right back in the banks. The banks now has another deposit of 81,000, and they're going to have to keep 10% of this with themselves. That means they can lend out 90%, which is how much? 72.1 billion, and so on and so on. And if you do the calculation, what you're going to see is that the total money supply in the economy is going to be 1,000 billion or 1 trillion. That's the total money supply. money supply from the central bank is 100 billion, but total money supply, not just by the central bank, but central bank and the commercial bank, is 1 trillion. What was, is it equal to overall demand for money? Okay. What is the demand for money? Let's calculate that as well. Money demand is equal to 5 trillion times 0.8 minus 4 times 0.15, which gives you, if you see, 1,000 billion or 1T. So what we see is that money supply and money demand are equal. That was part C. Let's take a look at part D. What is the effect on interest rate if central bank money is increased by 300? Okay, so central bank money used to be 100 billion. Now it's 300 billion. If it is 300 billion, it's quite easy to calculate the interest. We use the same equation, so 0.1 times 5 trillion, 0.8 minus 4i. So this gives us a, so 300b divided by 500b equals to 0.8 minus 4i. That would mean I is equal to 0.8 minus 0.6 divided by 4, 0.05, which is effectively 5%. So what has happened? Central bank money was 100 billion supply of central bank money, and we had interest of 5%. Now central bank has increased the money supply to 300 billion. And as we've seen already, when money supply increase, interest rates falls. And that is what's happened. And that's it. That's part D. So that's all the problem I'm going to do from this chapter. So what did we do? We did, I think, 2, 3, and 8. Okay. So I've already talked about the assignment that is due on the 8th lecture. So from chapter 2, I'll write this down here. Assignment 2. So from chapter 2, you guys will have to do number 1, 4, 5, 9, and 10. So remember, okay, sorry, I was saying chapter 2, actually chapter 4. So from chapter 3, remember this was the assignment 1, 6, 8, 9, and 10. And from chapter 4, this is what is due, 1, 4, 5, and 9. And as a, this is due on lecture 8. There's going to be one more assignment from chapter 5, and 3 of this will have to be submitted with on lecture 8.